Hey guys, this is Sam, and I run the YouTube channel Chalice and Chains. And today I wanted to do a video on the idea of economy in D&D. Now, you hear economy, oh God, I don't want to go back to school and do economics 101. And this isn't really what that's about. It is going to touch a little bit on a broad economics, topic, but more particularly on the idea of magical economy within D&D 5th edition, and what do adventurers do with all the loot that they're accumulating, but no magic items, or at least no prices on magic items to spend it on. So this came up because I saw a topic just recently in one of the Facebook groups saying just that, my players are getting all this gold and they don't, they're not interested in buying a keep or a ship or, running a tavern, whatever. But there's no prices for magical items, so what do? And, to me, I would say that my solution to that is to create a magical economy. Now, if they don't want to participate in the economy of the world, meaning like they don't want to engage in commerce, they don't want to have a trade system, they don't want to have a keep, they don't want to have any of that stuff, that's fine. For me, I actually really like that. I would much rather purchase a keep and do all that stuff, because I tend to only get to play maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks, which means there's a lot of downtime, right? So that can be a great opportunity to, whether you have a wiki set up or you have an Obsidian portal page or even just a Facebook group set up. If you as a player have the option to, okay, well, you got all this gold, you got this keep, but it's run down, you got to repair it, this problem's cropped up, that problem, I could jump onto Facebook for a half an hour or an hour and, periodically throughout the week or throughout the couple of weeks or month or whatever it is before the next game session and deal with that stuff. And I like that, but people don't, and that's okay. If you don't like that, that's not your thing, that's cool. So what I would say is, to make up for the fact that there aren't really prices on magical items, and there isn't a sort of established magical economy, create it. And what I mean by that is, when you look at mythology and you look at, your high fantasy fiction, the magic items that exist, they always have a story behind them, right? They were, crafted by the elven smiths of Eregion, or they were, crafted by, if you go with Wheel of Time, the Aes Sedai back in the Age of Legends, they were created for a purpose. In many cases by, commissioned by somebody with lots of money and lots of power, or by a group with resources and knowledge that needed those items to accomplish a certain task. So, what an awesome opportunity for roleplay and for side quests and whatever. If you are, let's say you're a fighter and you have a weapon that you have, you started the game out, you have a warhammer, and you really like your warhammer, but you really, you're 8th level, you want it to start dealing more damage, you're sick of it, 1d8 or 1d10 if you're dealing, if you're double handing it, you want to add some punch to it. Okay, well, what do? I mean, there's not very many magic items out there. Well, what about the idea of finding a wizard or a sorcerer or whatever that could imbue it with certain power? You want to add fire to it, right? You want to have it deal fire damage. Well, conceivably, right, they could figure out a way to imbue it with a firebolt or a burning hands spell and a permanency, and use a permanency spell and all that. I mean, mechanically there are ways to do that, right? And that's not that important, especially as a GM, you can hand wave a lot of that, but think about that, right? So, okay, you're the DM, you're talking to the player, and you say, well, what do you want to spend all your gold on? And they're like, well, man, I really want a better weapon, I want, some magical armor, all this, that, and the other. Well, you can't just go out and buy that. But tell me more about it. What specifically do you want? Okay, well, yeah, I want maybe it's a dwarf fighter with a war hammer, his plate armor, whatever. And he's like, well, I would really like a thunder hammer. I really want a war hammer that I can, when it hits, it deals, 1d8 thunder damage, or maybe it does lightning damage, whatever. And I want I want some armor imbued with, power that I can reduce damage, or I can, I don't know, has a magical aura that can damage enemies if they get in close. I mean, whatever, pick a special ability from a monster and you want that ability, right? Okay. Well, that's not impossible, potentially, right? I mean, unless your world is set up where magic is, very rare. But even in that case, why not? Why couldn't you go to a wizard, seek out a wizard of high enough power in the world to do that? Now, is the wizard going to just do it for free? Well, probably not. But what a great opportunity as a DM to say, okay, yeah, I'll do this for you, but I have this problem, or, oh, I need this magical component, or I need you to find this book of lore that talks about how to craft magic weapons. Or, if you don't want to get into that, you'd be like, yeah, sure, you pay me this much gold, it's going to take this amount of time, no problem. So, I like to couple that with the idea of a legacy magic item that gets more powerful as you go along. And so the way I would do it is you start out at level 1, as your dwarven fighter with your warhammer, but I insist as the DM that you have a story behind that warhammer. I've said, you need to pick one item, whether it's your armor, whether it's a weapon, whether it's a trinket, that has meaning for you, that has a backstory, and you need to tell me what that is. And so you've decided, well, this was, the warhammer of your clan that, your father had before you and his father before him, and, they've all been great fighters, but they've all died early. And so there's a bit of a family curse on this. People are afraid to carry this. Well, you are going to be the one that's going to break the curse, So this warhammer has meaning, okay? So unlike an MMO, when you're running through, and you'll drop items and pick up new ones all the time, this one you want to keep because it's meaningful. But what happens when you get higher level and it's dealing the same old damage, right? So as you start progressing up in the tiers, you go from your 1 through 4, which is just your basic adventure, up to the 5 through 6, the next level. At that point, I think it's appropriate to do something with that item to make it more powerful. And that's where you float the idea of, and you may not even need to float the idea, the players might think of it, but you make it known that, all right, now you have the opportunity to do this, So you're not going to go out and buy a new magic item, but you're going to figure out a way to increase the power of your existing item to make it magical. And that's going to be cool because the players are going to really enjoy that. It's going to be meaningful because it's the same legacy item that they have, but now it's more powerful and more useful to them. And they're not going to feel like they're getting, gypped out of something really cool, because they don't want to give up their item, but they got this other magic item that might be a lot cooler, right? So that would be my solution to dealing with economics in D&D. If you're not willing to engage in the economy by, having a keep, running a town, a tavern, a sailing vessel, whatever, piracy, banditry, hopefully you're not doing that. You have to create a magical economy, but you don't have to, have a magic shop selling magic items. You are imbuing items with magical power. And think about that. I mean, this campaign, comes to an end. You guys decide to start a new campaign and it's set 200 years in the future. Well, now you have a cool item already that exists that could be a potential quest for your new group, or that becomes part of the history of your world and your campaign. So anyway, I'd be curious to see what you guys have done or what your thoughts are, particularly with D&D 5th edition around economy and magic economy. What you think about this idea and, kind of what you guys have been doing in your own campaigns. So let me know, drop me a line on Facebook, on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments, that whole thing, and happy gaming.